Welcome to Dough-Kota Bakes again. So today we're just going to teach you how to make a standard loaf. So the first thing you're going to start off with is a nice good bowl. You're going to want a Danish whisk. You can really use any whisk, but I like these because it's really good for whipping up your starter inside your water. I like to have a silicone spatula for stirring, a scraper to help mix and move the dough around in the bowl. You're going to have a good bread flour. Some people do use all-purpose flour. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying I have not had a lot of luck using all-purpose flour. I've had some problems with it not absorbing the water and just being a very wet mass that doesn't raise up. So I highly suggest if you're a starter, just get a good bread flour. It's worth a little bit of extra money. If you're in Utah, you can get it at Costco. They have the Lehigh Mills bread flour for, I think, less than $13 for a 25-pound bag. So the first thing we're going to start off with is our bowl, and we're going to take 500 grams of flour. I've already pre-measured this. 10 grams of salt. You're going to want it non-iodized. This is pink Himalayan salt, but you can use just standard sea salt. I'm going to sprinkle that in. I'm going to take my whisk and I'm just going to move that salt throughout the flour, just kind of fluffing it up. The next step we're going to do is we are going to mix our bubbly active starter into our water. This is my bubbly active starter. For a loaf, I use a high hydration because I am in Utah. It's a drier climate and the flour is very absorbent. So I actually end up using a lot more water than a lot of people do. So I'm going to go with 430 grams of water. Okay, we're exactly 430. Now the starter, I'm going to use 125 grams. I know a lot of people will tell you that's way too much. You only need 50 grams. Let it bulk ferment longer. You'll get sour, but everybody loves the taste of my sourdough bread, so I'm going to stick with my 125 grams. But you could use anywhere from 50 to 125. Do some experimenting and see what you like. So I'm going to tare my scale. It's actually at 129 grams. Being a little bit heavy on your starter is not going to affect it. If you were heavy on your water or your flour, you may want to remove some. You can see that it's floating in the water. That's a good sign. That shows that your starter is active. And now we're just going to mix it into the water. You're going to distribute it to the water so that it looks basically like a very thin, milky substance. So that is what you end up with. I'm going to pour it over my flour and salt mixture. I'm going to make sure I remove all that good starter that's in the edge of the bowl. And then again, this tool is so great. You're just going to mix it up. And you can see as it starts to absorb, it starts turning into a shaggy loaf. Your dough is going to be sticky. Your dough is going to be shaggy. You want it that way. That is why we do the stretch and folds. The stretch and folds is what smooths out the dough, forms those gluten strands, and makes it a stronger loaf. So once I get it mixed about 90% of the way, I'm going to start using my scraper. I'm going to get all this flour off the sides and just mix it with the scraper. I want to chop in all that good dough that's on the sides and on the bottom. Mix it up. You can see your dough is shaggy, it's sticky. It's going to stick to your fingers. That is how it's supposed to be. Now we're just going to cover our bowl and we are going to wait half an hour to do a set of stretch and folds. So I will see you all in half an hour. Okay, it's been about a half an hour. It might be a little bit longer. I did run to the farmer's market and made some guilty purchases, but we're back and we're ready to do stretch and folds. So one sign that you want to look for that it's been rising is if you look, there is steam on the inside of that bowl cover. So it is putting off a little bit of heat and that's a good sign. Usually I'll just use a plastic shower cap type like cover to keep the moisture in. You can use a tea towel, but it tends to dry out a little bit more. If you do use a lid like this, make sure it's cracked because I have actually had it build up enough gases that it popped the lid off like a gun was going off. So just be aware. So If you look at the dough now, it's a little bit expanded. It looks a little bit bubbly. We're going to use, I'm going to get my hands a little bit wet because this is a sticky dough. So you get I keep a little bowl of water, get my hands wet, and then I'm just going to pull the dough up from each corner. And you can see as I stretch it out, it's starting to smooth out. And I'm just going to keep pulling it and pushing it down, pulling it and pushing it down. This is my preference. There's 100 ways you could do it. Some people do coil and folds. Some people do slap and folds. I just happen to like pulling it up and putting it into the middle. It works for me. So once I get it all pulled up, I'll pull the entire mass up and just kind of make a little ball in the center with it. You can see it got just a little bit smoother. And now we're going to put the lid back on, and we are going to wait about another 30 minutes, and we're going to do another set of stretch and folds. So we'll be back in just a little bit. Okay, we're back for our second set of stretch and folds. And you can see again, there is steam on the lid. It has been rising. We're going to take the lid off, and this is what it looks like. You can see it's just a little bit softer, a little bit smoother looking. And we're again going to get our hands wet, and then we're just going to do the stretch and folds. Stretching, or I'm just going to stretch it up. And you can see it's much smoother this time than it was on the previous set. It's stretching easier, and as you fill the dough, you can feel that it's actually stronger. It's not feeling quite as shaggy. It's not looking quite as shaggy, and this is a very good sign. This loaf is going to be great. And this is what your loaf should look like. You can still see it is still sticky, but it's getting a lot smoother and a lot stronger. And when you pull that up, you can actually feel it somewhat resisting against you. And that is what you want the loaf to feel like and look like. So now we're just gonna put the lid back on, and we're gonna wait another 30 minutes, and then we'll do our last set of stretch and folds. Okay, everybody, welcome back. And we are ready to do our last set of stretch and folds. Once again, you can see the steam on the lid. It's been rising. The dough's developed some more bubbles, and we're just gonna get our hands wet and do the same thing. We're just gonna lift it up and stretch it down several times into the center of the bowl. The dough is feeling stronger, and it is feeling smoother. I'm just gonna do a soft roll to work that dough, and I'm gonna do it to the side. And then I'm going to do it in the center. And then I'm just going to leave it as a ball in the center of my bowl. And now comes the hard part, the weight. We need to let it bulk ferment. So this will be the end of the video on how to get your dough ready. We're going to let it bulk ferment probably between 6 and 10 hours. It depends on how cold your house is. Mine is an ice box. I like it chilly. So it'll take a little bit longer. And then our next video series will be how to shape it into a bubbly, put it in the fridge for cold proofing, and then we'll be scoring it and baking it. Thanks for joining.